Hello everybody and welcome to Turncloaks, a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition actual play podcast presented by Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will and I'll be your Dungeon Master for tonight, and we return to our second round of origin stories today. And we have two new players with us to introduce themselves and their characters. So let's go and do that first of all. So our first player for today is Sydney. How's it going, Sydney?
It's going really good. I'm super excited.
Fantastic. And we also have Joseph with us today. How's it going, Joseph?
Hello, it's great. Fantastic.
Fan-bloody-tastic.
Yes.
So let's introduce your characters real quick. Let's figure out who we're playing, as once again we're doing one of these origin stories, which means we're going back in time a little bit to learn about those characters before we meet them in episode 1, which we'll be releasing next week. So, Sydney, talk to us about Aurora at this point in time.
So at this point, Aurora, or Ari for short, is a very young girl in the town of Boghaven. She lives with her mother and father, Odette and Amric. Her father is a magic user, but he doesn't do it very blatantly. It's something that's like a special bond between the two of them that they do. And the town itself is fairly poor, sort of off, not really pay that much attention to. But they're a very close and happy family.
Fantastic. And Joseph, talk to us a bit about Tamron.
Tamron is a pretty young dude. He lives with his father and mother in this little kind of cottage type thing on the outskirts of town. They're a very nature-loving family, so they make a very modest living for themselves, just kind of living off the land, hunting, gathering, all that kind of good stuff.
Fantastic. And worth noting that both these two characters are going to be in the same town, which is Boghaven, which is set in the marshlands, a slightly more deprived area in the world of Penumbra.
Her mother is a human and her father is an elf, so therefore she is a half-elf.
And Joseph, do you want to insert?
So his mother and father are both human, and he has a sister named Tiala as well.
Awesome. So today we're going to be starting with Ori and her origin story. So, Ori, at this point in time, you're a young girl. You're living in Boghaven, which is a slightly deprived area in the marshlands. Most of the people around this area are fishermen, or some of them are farmers as well. They get by on quite a meager living. And you're fairly cut off from the rest of society. You certainly have heard about other places in the marshlands and the Northlands, but in fact that's the Midlands. You'd certainly have heard of other places in the marshlands and the Midlands, but at this point in time, your village is what you know, and your family, your mother Odette and your father Amric. Now you know that Amric has some special talents. He is a magic user, and at this point in time, he's explained to you some of the tricks that he knows. Kind of hand magic. He can turn on candles with the flick of a finger. He can move pots and pans around with just his hand. And it's this morning that we're going to pick up your story as you're in your little hut with your mother Odette, your father Amric, and let's get a visual description of what Ori looks like.
So at this time, Ari is probably like 5 or 6, very, very young. So she's really little. She's got slightly pointed ears. She's got kind of stringy looking blonde hair, because it's not that well taken care of. She's got really, really big, bright blue eyes that you see like on really young kids. And she's like really scrawny because, they are from a more deprived part of the world, so they don't eat that much. She's not, she doesn't look very sickly, but definitely not as healthy as a normal child would look. But she's got a very sweet face, a very round face, very, very baby-like.
Okay. So your father, Amric, calls you over. He says, Ori!
Yes?
Come over here. Let me show you something.
Okay.
Now, as I've taught you before, one of the most important things is whilst we have these skills in our family, not everyone outside understands. Some people are scared of us because they think we're, they think we're scary, and we're not, are we?
No.
Exactly. So, he points over towards a dark corner of the room. He says, hide over there for a minute in the shadows.
Okay. And she goes and crouches down and, like, curls herself up into a ball.
He says, now, try and feel as though you're not there. Imagine that you don't exist in that space at all, that you're really not there. As if you were playing hide and seek.
Okay. And she, like, squints her eyes really, really hard, as if she's trying extremely hard to focus.
Mm-hmm. You see your father extend a hand over towards you, and Ori disappears. She melds into the shadows, and he said, "Fantastic! That's it. Look, open your eyes."
So can she still see herself at this point, or?
Yeah, you open your eyes and Ori sees that everything else around her seems as though it's got a slight filter over it, as though at the corners of her eyes she can see shadows. There's definitely something different with her vision. And he says, I can't see you at all.
Is it going to be like this forever? Did I do it right? Is this okay?
That's very good. You can stop doing that. Just stop focusing on it.
Okay. And she, like, blinks really hard to try and shake the filtery vision away.
It comes back and you rematerialize in that space. And your father comes over to give you a hug and says, that's excellent. Now remember, hide yourself when you need to, because there are bad people out there who really are bad, and they might think that we're bad, but we're not. Okay?
Oh, okay. They're not going to hurt me, are they?
No, of course not. And your mother, who's human, Odette, she comes over. She's got long, kind of straw-coloured hair, like yourself. And she says, Amric, you're not scaring her again, are you? And she looks to you.
She looks at her father for sort of a look of what to do or what to say at this point.
He shakes his head towards you conspiratorially.
She says, no, we were just playing a game.
Good. And she goes back to her tasks, and your father kind of takes you to one side and said, Good. Sometimes we need to obscure the truth to keep ourselves safe and keep the ones that we love safe as well.
Yes, sir.
So, life goes on with in Boghaven for the next few years. It's about the time that Ori is 8 that your father, Amric, begins to grow fairly ill. You're not quite sure why this is. It seems as though he's developed something of a winter cold, but it's the height of summer. And he's taken to bed. And you hear him kind of coughing and spluttering. And said, Ori,
Yes?
would you go outside for me? There are some men that will have come by. They've got my medicine.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ori.
And so she'll go out there and open the door and see if there's anything out there to get.
Yeah, you've been aware over the past couple of weeks that a group of soldiers have been into the village of Boghaven, and they are apparently sent from one of the 100. Ori may not really understand what that means, but you know that the 100 are important people. These soldiers wear plate armor and are apparently in the employ of a baroness. You don't believe that she's local, but they are peddling goods and medicines around the place. And a lot of people have been ill recently, and it seems as though these people have the cure. They've got a big cart and wagon set up, and there are about 10 soldiers. All of them are armed and armoured, and they're much bigger than you. And one of them kind of calls out, "What you want?"
My father sent me out here to get his medicine.
Oh, right, yeah. More medicine. And he goes into the cart and fumbles around and brings out these two black containers of liquid. And he says, there you go, these ones are on the house.
Thank you. So this is going to make him better, right?
Yes, right, love. You'll make him right as rain.
Thank you so much.
No worries. And the man that was talking to you has quite a distinctive look. He only has one eye, which makes him look rather intimidating. The other has been carved away, presumably by a war wound, and he only has a couple of teeth. He's a very large man and smells quite pungently of body odor and alcohol. And he hands over these two bottles towards you, and turns back to the group of men that he appears to be in command of. So you run back in, and you give your father the medicine. And he takes it, and for the next few weeks, he begins to take that as well. It's not long, however, before your mother, Odette, also begins to fall ill. And this is now something in the village that you're aware that a lot of the adults are falling ill with some kind of virus or disease, which seems to be spreading through the town. So at this point in time, both your mother and father are bedridden, and they are coughing and spluttering, and there are regular times in which they cough up blood, and they seem to be almost coughing up their guts at this point. And Ori knows that outside there are men with medicine, and that's kind of her only hope at this point.
Okay, so I think what she would probably do is, like, if there's a cloth that her mother or father has been coughing into with blood on it, she would take that or something else to show the men what it is. Mm-hmm. So she would grab that and then go outside and be frantically waving it and saying, I need some help. I need someone to help me.
The same large man with the scar over one eye is still there in town. They've been here for the past few weeks through storms and rain. It seems like they haven't been shifting, and their cart is looking like it's low on supplies. The man turns towards you. What do you need help with now, sweetheart?
She runs over to him and looks up at him with a really wide-eyed look where you can see tears are welling up in her eyes, and she's like, the medicine isn't helping, and I don't know what else to do. My mother and my father are both coughing up blood, and I don't know how to help them. And she extends up the cloth with the blood all over it to prove it to them.
He looks at it, takes it and nods. Yeah, no, I understand. Looks like it's happening to lots of folks around here. Well, I'll tell you what, sweetheart, we give you some more medicine, but we've got to be on our way soon.
But what am I supposed to do when you're gone and there's no more medicine?
I'm afraid you're going to have to make do.
Well, make do with what?
He kind of sighs, turns to the wagon and brings out a couple more of these black vials of liquid and says, if you're clever, you'd probably get out of here.
And leave behind my parents?
He looks at you and says, I mean, life is cheap. You got to survive one way or another, and looks like they ain't.
They're not?
He says, between you and I, we'll come back. You don't want to be here when we come back.
Okay, I don't want to hear this anymore. And she starts to turn around and walk back.
He watches you go, and you, for the next couple of days, you treat your mother and father. And your father at this point is at the edge of his life, and as is your mother. Both of them are kind of in and out of consciousness, sweating and coughing up blood regularly. And your father calls to you one night, Ori. Oh, Ori.
She'll run over to his bedside and kneel down beside him. Yes, do you need something? Do you need more medicine?
Yeah, I think the medicine might be the problem. No, food. I could do with some food. I'd like you to go out and scavenge for some food for us.
Okay, yeah, yes, I can do that. I'll be back very soon.
Before you go, Ori, remember what I told you about hiding from people?
Yes.
Those men outside, if they come in here, then make sure you hide.
Well, but why? Aren't they trying to help us?
I'm not so sure.
Well, then we shouldn't let them in. Should we just lock the doors and...
Yes, lock the doors, but sometimes a locked door is not enough to stop determined men.
All right. Well, I'll be back very, very soon. I promise.
Yes, and, where is my knife, Ori? I wish to do some carving.
Oh, it's in the kitchen. I can go get it.
Please.
Yeah, so she'll walk in there, and as she does that, kind of look out the window to see if she can see what the men are doing, if they're still out there or anything like that.
They're still out there. They look as though they're getting ready to leave.
Okay. Well, I mean, she's very young and very naive. She would probably let her guard down at that and think that they genuinely were leaving, so she would just grab the knife and maybe a block of wood or something like that just to bring it back to him, and go back kneeling down next to him.
And they say, thank you, Ori. Remember, sometimes we have to obscure the truth from those that we love.
So, don't tell anybody about this?
No, don't tell anyone about this. And be careful of who you trust. As I should have been.
I'm so confused.
It's okay. Just go and hunt and come back in a few hours and everything will be okay. Your mother, she'll feel better. She's in so much pain.
Okay, and I'll do anything to make her feel better, so, I'll leave right away, but I'll be back very soon.
Thank you, Ori.
And so she'll, go to her room and pack up maybe a small backpack of things she might need when she goes out. She's not much of a hunter. She's more of like a little thief, so she'll probably go into nearby villages or nearby houses or markets that are closed to take things from there and put them in her bag or something like that.
Okay. So you go out and hunt, and when you return, you see that the men have gone. The Baroness's men appear to have left the village, and there is an uneasy quiet around the whole village, as it seems as though you may be aware that other people in their homes have been dying, and you return to your house. And as you step into the room, you see that your mother and father are both asleep on the bed, and your father's carving knife is in his bloody hands, and it seems as though both your mother and father have had their throats slit. and that they've passed away in their own blood.
So, I guess, she would come in and probably in the darkness maybe not notice that so much. And, yeah, I mean, she's still extremely young. It would be normal for her to maybe hop on the edge of the bed and bounce to try and wake them up excitedly. She probably found a lot of stuff she was excited about, like a really good haul for the night. So she would crawl up on the edge of the bed and bounce up and down and be like, Mother, Father, look, I've got so much stuff to show you.
They don't move.
And, she reaches out to grab their hands and shake them. She's like, look, I found some of your favorites. I wanted. And, her hands are sort of wet, and she picks them up and looks at them and sees that they're, like, absolutely covered in blood. So the first person she would probably, like, climb on top of and shake would be her father. She's very close to her father, so she, like, kind of crawls on top of him and puts her hands on his face and is like, Father? Can you hear me?
Your father doesn't reply, but for the first time in what seems like months, he looks like he's at peace.
She looks over at her mother and puts her hand on her shoulder just to shake her. But at this point, she's aware of the reality of the situation, and just sort of lays there on top of both of their bodies and just starts sobbing uncontrollably.
Yeah. Your hand touches your father's at one point, and you see a spark of energy from his finger being transferred to your hand, and you feel the last of his energy being spent, and this strange energy courses through your bloodied hand as you're over the two of them, and you feel a different power to that which you had experienced before. But it's weeks before Ori really moves or leaves the house, not eating, barely drinking, and the odor of your parents as their rotting corpses lie in their home begins to grow so strong that it regularly will make you vomit. You will play with your mother's hair in braids and talk as if she was still there, and pretend as though they were still alive. No one else in the village seems to be talking. You can't hear anyone moving outside. The men have long gone. Until one day there's a knock on the door.
So it takes her a while to get up at all, like to find the motivation to even do that. She almost thinks that it's a dream because she hasn't had any sort of human interaction in so long. But if the knocking persists, she would eventually find the energy to get herself up and to the door, and she would only open it very, very slightly. Now she's not very trusting. She probably wouldn't just swing it open. She's very cautious to see who is at the door.
There's a little girl with dark hair in ragged streaks. There appears to be blood pouring from her skin and buboes and pus marks all over her body, and in her hands there's a baby that begins to start crying. And the little girl has the baby in her arms and just offers it towards you. You see her basically just fall to her knees as you take the child. You can tell that she has something very wrong with her.
So she would take the child and probably not be able to hold it for very long. She's extremely weak. She's basically just skin and bones at this point. So she would drop to her knees as well, just for the fact that she couldn't stand that long holding something. And she looks at the child that has just fallen there, and she says, What has happened to you? Who is this? Who are you?"
The little girl seems almost barely conscious, and she's at this point fallen down from her knees and onto her back, and you see that there's basically just blood pouring from over her from these pus marks that have essentially burst open when she fell to the floor. And she whispers, she says, "Lady, the men, they took me."
They took you? Who took you? The men with the medicine?
She barely manages to get a nod out. She's a little older than you, maybe 10 or 11 years old.
She says, where did they take you?
The lady.
Who are you talking about? I can't help you. If no one tells me anything, I can't help you.
All she seems to be able to repeat is the lady. And that the men took her. And somehow it seems as though she's managed to make her way out. She says, "They let me go, but like this."
So they did this to you? This is their fault?
She nods, and you can see her eyes rolling back in her head as from blood loss she seems to be passing out. The young girl dies on your doorstep, and you're left with the child.
So the child looks, like, unharmed and...
Yeah, you sit for what seems like hours with the child, though it may have only been minutes, and you hear a rustle in the bushes behind you, behind your house.
Okay, so, she would probably set the child maybe down on the kitchen table or something. She doesn't really know where else to put it, or maybe on her own bed, and then immediately go. And so she hasn't touched or moved her parents' bodies at all during this whole thing. And so she'd probably pry the knife out of her father's corpse's hand, because that's the only weapon she knows about, really.
Yeah.
And sort of peer out the window to see if she can see anything.
Yeah, you see a boy who is, looks like in a hunting position with a bow, and is stalking through the woods after prey. It's the first person you've seen that's alive and well in a very long time.
So, does he look to be about the same age?
A similar age to you, yeah.
Yeah. And he's not sick or anything?
From this distance, it's difficult to tell, but it doesn't seem as though.
Well, so this is the first thing that's, like, sparked any kind of hope or curiosity in her this whole time. And she's also, probably without even realizing it up until this point, is yearning for some sort of companionship.
Mm-hmm.
So, she'll climb out of the window, still having the knife in her hand, and try to follow him.
Okay. So, you follow him, and from some distance, using the tricks that your father taught you, manage to stay hidden. You see that he's seems to be a fairly accomplished hunter, and manages to shoot down some game. And you see that it's a white rabbit which the boy has managed to shoot.
Okay. So at this point, seeing any kind of meat is probably like making her mouth water. She hasn't actually eaten anything, and she probably hasn't realized how hungry she's been, because she's been surrounded by like death and been so sick this whole time. But like the potential of food gives her a lot of adrenaline here, so she will try and like circumvent the route that this boy is taking to pick it up, so she can get to it first.
Yeah, you do so with some speed and clinging to the shadows. You see the rabbit isn't quite dead, It's been shot through the paw and clearly is going to die from the wound, but it's still like managing to kind of hop away, leaving blood a bloody trail.
Yeah, at this point, she would probably pounce on it and jump after it so she can get a hold on it and finish the job.
Yeah, you stab down into the rabbit and pick up your prize, and as you pick it up and stand up again, an arrow flies past your face, slicing at your cheek, and you realize that the boys fired another arrow into the bushes in an attempt to shoot the rabbit, most likely not even noticing that you were there, and you let out a scream of pain. And a few moments later, the boy comes through the bushes. Joseph, do you want to describe Tamron to us?
So Tamron at this point, he's a young boy. He's probably got, he's a little tall for his age. He's got olive skin, green eyes, and kind of the shaggy brunette hair that he often ties back in kind of a headscarf. Yeah.
So, Ori, you see this boy before he almost shot you in the face.
So Ari is extremely volatile at this point. Like, her emotions are everywhere. So her immediate reaction to this is defensive. So she would probably grab the arrow in one hand and her knife in the other with the rabbit down at her feet, and stand up in sort of a defensive position as if she is ready to attack him for that.
Feel free to dive in here, Joseph.
Oh, okay. What do you think you're doing?
I'm defending myself.
You're stealing my meal is what you're doing. Now, if you'd hand that over and give me back my arrow, it'd be much appreciated.
I haven't had anything to eat in weeks. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to... I can't hunt on my own, and I saw the opportunity and I took it.
Are you from the village?
Yes.
I didn't think anyone was alive anymore. Are there others?
Yes, there's me, and there's another young child, a baby. I don't know about anybody else, but yes.
Well, you're not going to get very far with one of my arrows and a kitchen knife, so I propose we enjoy this meal. Get some meat on your bones. You look like you haven't eaten in weeks.
Have your parents... Have they... Are they
They
gone?
left. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're dead or alive. But they're gone.
My parents died.
So sorry.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with them.
You mean the bodies are still...
I can't get rid of them. I can't.
However important they were to you before, they're now only flesh that carries disease. The memories are what's important. But the bodies must be disposed of.
Can you help me?
Absolutely.
There's there's a baby. A girl came to my door with a baby.
We have to take food to... Do you know of any more?
No, I'm not sure. I haven't gone and looked. I've just been sitting and crying, and I'm...
There will be more time for self-pity, but now we have to take care of whatever else there is to take care of. If there are others, we have to find them. We need to help them.
I don't think I can. I wasn't able to help my parents, and I can't help this child, and I can't help myself.
You're alive now. You lived through your parents' death. You've slept with their bodies. You are strong. And that strength must be given to others.
What is your name?
Tamron. And yours?
Aurora. But you can call me Ari if you want to be friends.
Friend sounds like a start. If you so wish to abbreviate my name, Tam would be acceptable as well.
Okay. Tam.
Well,
So-
Ari, we have a rabbit to eat. And I want to kind of pick it up and take out my own knife, which would be my father's, and cut its 2 front feet off. And I'm gonna pocket one and give the other one to her. It is said that the white rabbit is a sign of good luck and good fortune. Keep its foot. You shouldn't be without luck wherever you are.
I think, we, of all people, deserve some luck.
It would seem so.
Should we go back to the village?
I think that would be best.
Okay.
All right, so the two of you return to the village, and we're going to leave Aurora's backstory there. So let's pick up with Tamron's origin story, and we've just had a description of him, so we don't need to do that. But you, similarly, Tamron, in the Rysak household, live in Boghaven. So you live with your father Giano, your mother Seraphin, and sister Tiala. And as you mentioned previously, your family are a nature-loving family. You live in a somewhat isolated part of Boghaven. You don't have too much interaction with the other young boys and girls of the village. Your father is a fairly well-renowned hunter within the village, and he's been teaching you those skills ever since you were a young age. Your mother, Seraphin, is a bit of a herbalist in the village. She's become known as a public figure, someone to go to when there's an illness in town. Your family fit fairly comfortably into the community. You don't want for too much. You're by no means rich, but it's not as though the family are starving every winter or just getting by. And being this kind of nature-loving family that are very close to the woods, your mother and father will tell you fantastic tales of the wisps of the woods and the beings which exist in the swamps. Whether or not Tamron really believes any of that is true is entirely up to you, but it certainly seems as though your mother and father have a faith in the spirits of the woods, and that they are fairly devout in that, even though they don't have necessarily a name for that practiced religion. It's more of a local, perhaps only something that they really believe in. But you've certainly grown up hearing about these tales. And, excuse me, every year there's a festival held within Boghaven, which is known as Horizons Banquet, which is one of Tamron's favorite events to go to. It's a celebration of prosperous times, and the village all come together, and it's one of the main events in which Tamron would meet other kids in the village. It is very much a time of community and meeting one another, because everyone else kind of just gets along with their daily lives, and there's not really too much time to meet with other people. And this morning when we pick up is going to be the day of Horizons Banquets. It's a very exciting day. Tamron's up early, and your mother and father are up as well, and they are cooking, and your sister Tiala is weaving. She's put together a final piece for the banquet, which is sort of thing where you can show off your wares, and you might have a project that you've been working on that you bring to the banquet. Yeah, your mother and father kind of wake you up, although you've probably already been awake for some time, and your mother, Seraphin, comes in. She says, Tamron, are you all ready for today?
Oh, yes, mother. Yes.
Good. I know it's your favourite day of the year. Seraphine is a woman in her 40s that has this almost like white hair, and she's still, very beautiful. Your father has a kind of shock of sort of like shaggy brunette hair similar towards yourself, and your sister looks very much like your mother. And your mother says, well, make sure that you don't get into any trouble with the other young boys of the village, okay?
Well, I'll try not to, but they can be quite mischievous.
Yes, I know. Oh, there should be some men that are coming to the village as well. They're meant to have, apparently, swords, so don't play with them, okay?
Well, is it alright if I at least look at them?
You can look at the swords, yes, but what do you need a sword for when there are the spirits of the trees all around us to protect us?
I suppose you're right. They are rather shiny and cool, though. I'd love to have one.
She rolls her eyes. Maybe when you're old enough you can have a sword, but I doubt your father would like that. And your father kind of comes out from where he's been cooking something. He says, a sword! I'd quite like one of those. Could I have one? And she rolls her eyes and she's like, classic dad, And he then takes a very kind of like stern expression, but he's like, no, seriously, love, swords, not cool.
All right, father.
I used to think swords were cool when I was your age too, and then I learned that there are much cooler things than swords.
Like what?
Like building a house, or settling down.
Oh, I suppose a house does have many more uses than a sword, so...
Exactly, you can only take with a sword. With other things you can give. With your hands.
You're right.
You can build a home, you can give a man food, you can cure an ailment.
You're right, father.
Now, enough lessons from me. Take these, and he goes and brings you kind of like big hampers of food, and take those out to the square for me.
Absolutely. And he kind of runs over excitedly and picks up the hampers and runs to the village with them.
Yeah, you head to the big banquet, and there's these huge tables that are laid out with food from the village folk. The farmers are bringing in food. There's carts rolling everywhere, and there are the kids kind of playing in the streets. It's a very excited sort of atmosphere. One of the townsfolk's like, put that over there, and come, lad, are you old enough to drink?
Only if you don't tell my parents.
I can keep a secret, lad. And the man has one of these kind of like kegs on tap, and basically he's just handing out alcohol to everyone. It's a very kind of indulgent festival for the local people, in which basically everyone just gets pissed. And also eats lots of food, as, peasant folk are wont to do. And so this is, Tamron's first drink, which I imagine is probably quite sort of acrid for his tastes at this point.
Yeah, he would takes a sip of it and just kind of... thank you.
You're welcome. You'll get used to that. That's good grog there.
All right. And he just kind of takes it and probably pours it out on his walk back home.
On your on your walk back home towards your house, and from your family, you meet back up with your family, and then go back out to the banquet to eat and drink with people. And your sister Tiala is with her her girlfriends basically, and they're all out kind of showing one another what they've made, and running away from boys. And your mother and father are sat down at the kind of banquet table celebrating. It's all very kind of jovial atmosphere until a sudden sort of quietening happens as people grow a little bit uneasy. As rolling into town are a band of soldiers. There are about 10 of them. They have a big cart behind them, and they are kind of plated, mailed, and armed as well. Now, seeing a soldier in somewhere like Boghaven is quite an unusual thing, and Tamron would be very much aware of that. Your mother and father are not fans of soldiers or any kind of war. They like to keep themselves to themselves, and people grow quite nervous about this. And your father whispers, "That's the men from the Baroness. I believe his name is I believe his name is Banda Durwell. He leads the group.
Oh. And what are they here for?
Selling medicine or something or other. I believe that, lots of people will probably want to buy the wares. You see, they come from the Midlands. It's a richer land, and they've got all sorts of fancy medicines there that we don't get down here.
But Mother's been able to heal every illness that this town has had. Why should we need their medicine?
Well, I'm inclined to agree, but, you know what people are like. They see something shiny and they think they need to have it.
Like swords.
Like swords, yes. And he kind of ruffles your hair. The men come over to the table, and it seems like they want to be friends. This one man who's been pointed out to you as Banda Durwell is the one with the one eye, and he's quite a big man, but he very swiftly allays everyone's fears with gold. And this is not a common sight around these parts. You'd be used to sort of, penny farthings and copper pieces and groats. And he, starts flashing around some gold coins. And people are immediately sort of warm very quickly to this band of the Baroness's men, who don't seem to actually want to hurt anyone, but they do start peddling their wares a bit and talking about these medicines. And it's not long before they have a whole line of people who are convinced that this medicine will cure, warts or your cold or grow back your hair, all these sorts of like peasant treatments that aren't necessarily diseases and illnesses, but they believe that they need help with. And your father said, "Why don't you check out that card for me? You're rather nimble. I want to see what they've got in there."
Oh, yes, Father. Is there anything in particular you're looking for?
Just see what's in there without purchasing anything, if you can.
I might be able to do that.
He shoots you a mischievous
scamper over
wink.
to the card.
Yeah. So you kind of, manage to sneak your way behind the car and kind of poke your head in and see that they've got lots of sort of like potions and looks like ointments in there, all of the same sort of like black vials of liquids inside, which you've got no idea. It looks similar to like wine, maybe. That's probably the closest thing that Tamron could like relate this to being. And it's not long before, as you poked your head in, you feel like you're being pulled out by a mailed fist. And this big man with the one eye, Banda Durwell, brings you out. "What you doing in there?"
Well, I just wanted to have a look. I was just curious. We've never seen anything like this in this town before.
Is that so? Well, now you've seen it. Any questions?
Well, I do have one. And I kind of want to... Does he have a sword on him?
He does, yeah.
Okay. I just want to say... Could I just look at that and just point at the sword?
He gives you a long look, and then he kind of gives in and like draws his sword. You can see that it's got like a lot of notches in it. This guy is clearly used this sword a fair amount. And he says, "Lots of people have died on that sword, boy. Just be careful with it."
Oh, God, I've never thought of killing anyone before, but I suppose as a militiaman that must be your purpose.
Sometimes you gotta take lives. That much you learn in war. Sometimes the soldiers aren't always the ones you're killing, if you catch my drift.
Oh, all right. And I just kind of hand the sword back to him a little hurriedly.
Yeah. He gives you a long look. Potentially he sees something of himself in you. And he kind of gets down to your level and says, "Don't ever fight, boy. Don't ever join the army or anything like that. It's bloody foolery."
What makes you say that? Are you unhappy? You seem to be a very successful captain or something.
He kind of spits on the ground. "Yeah, I was. But sometimes you have to take orders that you don't want to follow through, but I've got something over you. And so you've got to do it. No matter how evil it might seem. It's survival.
All right. That's, I suppose, good advice. Thank you.
She stops and gets out a dagger quite quickly, and you're a little bit nervous. And it's this kind of curved dagger, and he just hands it to you by the hilt, and says, "You might be needing this."
I'd hope not to be killing anyone with it, but I'll accept.
He nods. Keep it close, in a boot or somewhere where folks can't see it.
Right. And as he says that, I just kind of immediately tuck it in my boot.
And if you've got any sense, then get out of these lands.
What's coming?
Bad stuff, boy. Bad stuff. And we're the harbingers of it. Us lot here.
So, should we warn the others? Then why are you bringing medicine? What exactly is the bad stuff?
Complicated. But just know that not everything that people do, they have much of a choice over. Sometimes you just gotta survive and protect the ones that you love, and sometimes that means taking other people's lives. You understand?
I think so. I'll try and follow your advice, but you've been a bit confusing. I hope that...
He kind of shakes his head. I've said too much as it is.
All right. I hope that someday you can find freedom and happiness.
He smiles sourly. Happiness is not the business in which we're in.
Whatever business you're in, I hope it doesn't harm other people too much.
I hope that too, boy. Or I hope not to live to see it through. Now, scram.
Alright, he kind of runs off and gives him just a little wave over his shoulder.
He watches you go, and you return to your father, Giano, and he says, What was that? Did you see what was inside?
Oh, yes, they have a large amount of vials of... It looks to me like wine. That's really all I could see it as, but it's I don't know, it's just this liquid, and they're all in black vials. I don't know what it is.
Black vials?
Yes. Crates full of it.
Your father looks concerned. A deep kind of furrow comes over his brow, and he says, "Give me a moment. I must speak with your mother. Go play. Enjoy yourself." And he just rushes off.
Yes, father.
You see him speaking with your mother in what seems like quite furtive tones, very worried. Whilst you try and kind of distract yourself from whatever's going on, the two of them seem like they're very worried. At a later point, your mother and father go and speak with the man, Banda Derwell, and whilst you don't overhear the conversation, you see they speak for a good 10 minutes or so, until eventually your mother and father leave, having inspected what's in the crates. Your father looks more worried than he ever has before as you return home that night.
Father, is something wrong? What are those men doing in town?
It's difficult to explain. I'll tell you more in the morning.
All right.
Okay, well, sleep well, child. And know that your mother and I, we love you. More than anything.
I love you too, Father.
He looks very worried, and he ruffles your hair, and they return to their room. Your sister Tiara kind of whispers towards you. She has a bed, adjacent in the same room, even a fairly small house. She says, "Psst, What was all that about?
Dad says he's going away.
To the market?
He didn't say, he just said he was going. I don't know what's going on, but I think it has something to do with those men that came into town during the banquet.
Maybe he's going to trade with them, or he's traveling with them on a trip?
It might be. Whatever it is, I hope he's not gone too long.
Me too. I'm going to speak with Mother and see what that's all about.
Okay, let me know if you find anything out.
I will. Tiala leaves and enters your parents' room. But she doesn't return, and eventually, despite all the worry and anxiety, Tamron succumbs to sleep. And whilst you wonder where your sister went, eventually, the day's been a long one, and the stress basically takes hold of your body, and you fall into fitful sleep. You wake up the next morning, and it's quiet in the house. Your mother and father are usually up at this point, cooking, and Tiala hasn't returned to her bed.
I get up and go out into the main room and cross over to my parents' room and kind of knock on the door.
There's no answer.
I push it open and see if anyone's in there.
No one's in. It seems as though it's empty, along with a lot of your parents' possessions.
I go out to the front door and just fling it open and rush out into the yard, and then realize that there's just kind of this great expanse of wood around me, and I have no idea where they could have gone.
Yeah, you know your father had a cart which you can take a lot of possessions with, and it seems that that's gone as well. And your father, being a hunter, knows how to conceal his tracks, and it seems as though he has done. And you search around your house frantically for your family, but they're gone, along with your sister and mother, and many of their possessions have been left behind. There is, however, a note on your parents' bed, along with your father's hunting bow, and the note simply reads, "Trust in the spirits."
I take it and fold it and stick it inside of my shirt and just kind of go into the kitchen and sit at the table, just kind of contemplating what's going on.
Yeah. Tamron tries to think it through. Time passes to such a point where you realize you're very hungry, and so you go hunting and spend the next few days to a couple of weeks just living in the house, hoping that they will return. You figure that perhaps your father is away on a business trip and has taken the family with him and just forgot to tell you, and so hopefully they'll be back soon. However, several weeks pass, and whilst you're, sustaining yourself by hunting, they don't return. And so the only natural thing to do is to go to the nearby village of Boghaven, and see what's going on.
All right, so I go and I try to kind of just enter the village and see if the men with the carts are still there, if there's anyone there that I could talk to.
Yeah. By this point, the village is almost empty entirely. There's a sickly smell across it. The men with the cart are gone, along with Banda Derwell. And it seems as though several of the houses have been just left kind of open, and inside, as you look, you see corpses, rotting corpses of village folk. And the very same man who gave you a drink only a few weeks back has died in his home, along with 5 children, and their bodies are just littering the floor. It seems as though they've passed away through some kind of sickness.
I want to kind of go into the house and I pull up my shirt as I do, just as a precaution, and just say a brief prayer to the spirits of the woods that they've found safe passage.
Yeah. You can only stay in there for a few moments before the stench almost makes you vomit. And you head back out and check a couple of the other houses to see that it seems to be the same case almost everywhere. And there are kind of the dried, almost black, at this point blood, where the blood has dried in these homes where it's kind of drenched the floorboards. And you realize that almost everyone here is dead. You don't see anyone that's alive and don't hear anyone that's still even clinging on to life. It's when all hope seems like it's been lost, when from the corner of his eye, Tamron spots a blur of motion and realizes that behind one of the houses there is a rabbit moving. Not just any rabbit, but a white rabbit, which is of some significance to him, as his parents have taught him that the white rabbit is a sign of good luck. And you see it just kind of like bounce out behind this house and down into the woodlands.
So I crouch down, hoping it hasn't noticed me, and quickly, but very stealthily, go after it.
Yeah, you stalk after it for some time, following its quite blurring pattern through the woods, zigzagging, until you watch it stop in a small glade, and very patiently and quietly draw back your father's hunting bow, and release an arrow. You hear the arrow kind of like whistle past, and you hear that kind of small sound of the impact as the rabbit, not quite dead, has kind of bounded away into the woods behind a thicket, and there is blood pouring from the creature's wounded paw. You're pretty sure you've got it.
All right, I go after it, but I'm kind of cursing myself for having done such a poor shot.
Yeah. It's not quite a clean kill. And so you fire a second arrow after it to make sure that it's finished off and you put the creature out of its misery. However, you hear a shriek from a person, and investigating that, you see Ori. Now, we're going to now pick up from where Ori and Tamron left together. So at this point is where you meet Ori and have that exchange in the woods in which you become friends and exchange the paws of the white rabbit, and return to the house. This is where the origin stories converge somewhat, and we see Tamron and Ori become close friends, looking after the child, whom they name Tanith. And this is the case over the next few years, into their sort of teens, until they are young adults, and several other children join the children that are living in Boghaven, and what's left of Boghaven. And the group of you essentially bring some amount of prosperity and life back to the inhabitants. It seems as though the children who did survive, or children from outlying farms and settlements such as Tamron, managed to survive whatever disease hit Boghaven whilst the adults passed away. And so Tamron and Ori begin to establish this new community, and the children look to them as leaders. It's not as though there's many of them here. There are only 10 to 20 or so children at any point living within Boghaven, along with the Tanith, who's, at this point growing up to be, 8 to 10 at this age, I suppose. And, conscious and able to kind of identify you two, not as parents, but as sort of parental figures. Some amount of normality restores itself to Boghaven. So it's one day, as several years have passed, as you guys are in your early 20s, that Tanith's been out running about in the kids in the village and kind of comes back in quite breathlessly. He's got a mop of blonde hair and freckles and very sort of outgoing. He's like, guys, Tammy, Ori.
Yes, Tanith, what's going on?
There are some men. They're coming down the road.
What
Men?
do they look like?
I spotted them from afar when I was playing with the other kids. They've got they're shiny.
You mean they're wearing armor?
Yeah, I guess.
Is there anything with them? Are they carrying anything?
I couldn't see. They were just coming down the road. They're not 10 minutes away. I thought I should let you know. We don't get many travelers. I'll tell the other kids.
No. Don't say anything right now. And Ari will look up at Tamron and have a very concerned look on her face. Sort of like, what do we do?
Yeah. We can't let what happened before happen again.
We don't even know how that happened, though. How do we avoid it a second time?
We need to hide everyone.
Everyone?
If they think that there's still people here, they might try to kill off what's left. We don't know if they caused what happened before, but it happened right after they came here.
Right. So, where do we go? Where do we take them? Can we take all of them? I don't know if we could protect all of them, Tam. I don't think we can.
We have to try. We can take them into the woods, at least until we know they've passed through, and then we can come back.
Okay. And just, Tam, don't be afraid to run.
Never am.
Okay. And she'll come in and hug him really tightly.
And
And she remembers her father kind of teaching her to hide, and just sort of acknowledges that she'll probably have to do that soon. And she grabs Tanith by the hand and says, "Come on, Tanith. We're going to go get your friends, and
Okay.
we're gonna go on a little trip. We're going to go on a scavenger hunt through the woods.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So go get all of your friends, even people that may not be your friends, all of the children. Go get them, and we're all going to go play a game.
Okay, I get everyone.
Okay, and just don't yell or anything. Okay, just do it calmly, and then
Okay.
come right back around the house. Just because we don't want to give away any of the secrets of the game."
Okay. He, he's trusting little 8-year-old. He runs off and gathers the children until he has a small herd of children. And you see, if you were to kind of look out from the sort of lookout tree that you guys have, you see that down the road there are this group of men in armor who are coming down towards you. So, Ori, you're leading the children through the woods whilst Tamron stays behind. And a few minutes later, as he's in utter silence, Tam sees the men come into the village. They are dragging a very similar looking cart behind them, potentially even the same one, just much more worn down. Their armor is the same, dark and plated, although with far more dents in it than he saw before. And the men are a lot older as well, reaching into their 40s, with the leader, who recognizes Bandada well, much older, graying, receding hair, something of a sort of graying beard, and still his large physique, but he seems much more tired than he was before. And he casts his one good eye out into the village. And he calls out, "Is anyone there? Anyone?" And he's starting to look out around him.
I want to slowly open the door of the house, and before I step out, take the knife that he gave me out of my boot and walk out with my hands up, but with the knife prominently displayed.
The men kind of bristle for a moment as they see you coming out, but Dorwell holds up his hand to kind of stop them and kind of squints towards you, trying to recognize why there's a familiarity with you. And he says, "Boy, do I know your face?"
You should remember my face, and you should remember this blade. You gave it to me some years ago, nearly a decade now, just before this village ceased to have life in it.
There's a glimmer of recognition in his one eye, and he nods, and with some discomfort kind of twists in his mail armor. It definitely weighs quite heavy upon him these days, and you can see that there's very much a more resigned look upon his face, whereas before there was some amount of hope. And he says, "I remember. I remember what I told you as well. I told you to get out of here, didn't I?"
You did, but this is my home. My parents may have left, but I have a loyalty to this village.
Loyalty gets you killed, boy. Loyalty gets you where I am now.
Loyalty is what told you to kill. Loyalty to something you don't believe in, but I believe in this community.
He shakes his head in seemingly sort of amazement and disbelief, and he says, "You are a fool, boy. You are a stubborn fool."
Help me to understand. If you think I am a fool, make it so that I am not.
You stay where there is only death. You stay where death will come again.
Because you bring it.
He nods, and there's a remorseful sort of look, but he looks resigned as well, and he nods. "I do, boy, I do. I am deaf now. The years have not changed that. They have only made me used to it."
I should hope to understand why. Why did you look to kill this village?
Because of love. Because my wife, my daughter, they were taken from me. And if I did not do as I was told then, I would never see them again. And now for my sins, I will never see them again. But still I go on.
I can see that your loyalty then is in something that you do believe in. You can love. I saw that in you the day that you gave me this blade. You told me to never use it to kill, but blades are not the only weapons that you have. Should be wary of men like you.
You should.
I hope that you will leave this place. Not leave another stain on it as you once did.
Boy, would that I could. Would that I could show mercy. But I've forgotten what that is, and I have been shown none.
At this point, Tamron becomes kind of fearful, and he begins to kind of take a few steps back as he's saying these words.
Perhaps there is some mercy left in me. But I would have you run. I would have you leave this place and never return. I would have you stop believing that you can make something good of this world, because you cannot. All you can do is survive in it.
No, I believe we can thrive. We once did in this village. You came to us on the happiest day of our existence. During the Horizons Banquet, the one festival that all of our people could look forward to. And you turned that once glorious thing into dust. And still I am here, because I believe in this village. And I believe that there are things that protect it, even from swords or from poison.
Don't you see, boy? Can you not look around you? Everyone here died. Everyone here will die again. I cannot be stopped. She cannot be stopped.
She. The Baroness.
He nods sadly. I have no choice. None of us here do. We do not kill for pleasure. We do not bring sickness to these lands. Out of our own enjoyment, we do it so that we may survive. There is no choice. Only whether to go on. And every day I wonder, is it worth it? Should I even continue? And every day I see the same hope in my daughter's eyes when I close mine. And I know that I must continue. And he looks down and turns his head towards his men. Bring them. And from out of the forest come a second band of troops with the children in tow. And they're pushing them forwards. They're not chained, but their swords are to their children's throats. And I'm guessing that... Ori, would you be with them, or would you have hidden? Because Tanith is there too.
Oh my god. Oh. I don't know. Oh my god, I don't know. Give me a second. This is very unexpected. No, she would not have hidden just based on the fact that she knows that Tam would never forgive her if she didn't do everything she could to help them.
So you're standing next to Tanith, and Ori's with the children as they're kind of rounded up and brought into the square, and Banda Doel looks at them with a pained expression. You see, boy, these are the ones we missed. And if I could make you understand the pains that we had to go through for our mistakes, then maybe you'd understand, but this time I can't make any mistakes.
And please, make this exception. I will trade myself for them, but you must let them go. Whatever poison it was that you gave the people before us, I will take. But they must go free. This is 20 of your daughters. They have lives ahead of them. They could be so much more. They could be the good in the world.
Damn.
I stopped believing that years ago. No, boy, you must survive because you are a survivor like me. You and I, we're the same. Whether you like it or not. So I offer you these mercies. I will not give them the sickness. I will give them the mercy of our blades. It will be quick. They will feel nothing. And one of them you can take with you. For this is not a life to live alone.
And yet it is a lonely life.
So would Ari recognize this guy as well as the one that gave her the medicine?
Mm-hmm.
So she would, try to get his attention, I guess, and call out to him. Hey! You!
He looks over.
Oddly enough, I am so glad to see you right now. I have a question. I have a question that I've had for years, and you are the only one who could ever answer it. Years and years ago, the night that I lost my parents, I led myself to believe that they just died because of the sickness, and the blood that I was covered in was just because of what they were coughing up, but I know that that's not it. I need to know, did you kill them? Did you come into my home that night and cut the throats of my parents while they slept?
He looks at you for a while, then shakes his head. No.
No?
You heard me, girl. I slit no throats.
I don't understand. Then do you know who did?
If your father had any sense, he'd have cut his own throat. The end is not one worth experiencing.
My father would never, he would have never killed himself or my mother and just left me there. He would never have done that. It had to be you. It had to be.
Boy, there is a choice here to make. I will let you take one with you, but no more. The rest will die by my blade.
I'm to stand back as you destroy an entire future. As you once did before.
Make the decision, boy. This doesn't have to be any harder than it already is. Before I change my mind, one of them. Pick now!
Ari, step away from them.
Tim, we can't. Oh, God. And she goes and stands next to you and just, collapses into your arms, sobbing.
Tanith looks back at you, confused. Tam? Ori? What's happening?
Aneth. Remember the stories I told you about the spirits?
Yeah,
You're about to meet them.
I am?
Yes. And they're wonderful, I promise. You're gonna love them.
But I'm scared.
It's always frightening before you take a big jump. But it's always a lot of fun when you land.
Were you coming with us?
Not this time. But you'll be just fine on your own.
Tanith, do you remember the game that we used to play when we used to hide?
Yeah.
Let's play that game, okay?
Okay.
Now, concentrate and close your eyes and hide.
He curls up into a ball as instructed, and Bandadel says, "You can leave now. You do not want to see this."
I'll be seeing you again. And then I will be the one who brings death to you.
He nods. Good. Because I can't stop myself.
Well then. I suppose you've won. I hope you're happy.
As I told you years before, happiness is not the business we are in. And the men move to cut the throats of the children. and Bandit Orwell stands there in the square and watches you leave. And that is where we're going to wrap up tonight's origin story.
And he laughs as we sit here crying.
Oh, you gotta laugh, don't you?
Oh, good lord.
Ooh. Ooh.
I was gonna film YouTube videos after this.
Oh dear. Well, let's do the wrap up real quick. Whilst we're still,
Let's do a wrap
whilst we're
up.
still raw from it. Alright guys, that's where we're going to be wrapping up tonight's second origin story. This means that next week is our official first episode of Turncloaks. We really hope that you guys are looking forward to it. And if you are, please do let us know. You can find us on Twitter at TurncloaksPod. And we'd love to read out some 5-star reviews from you guys. So if you're on iTunes or Stitcher as we are, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know what you're excited for or what you're worried about in the future episodes. We're really excited to bring this show to you, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. But let's go to our players. Let's get some reactions. And figure out where we can find you guys online as well. So let's start with Sid. What do you think of tonight's episode, Sid?
I'm still crying. Yeah, it was great. It was awful, and it was great. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to. I'm trying to rebuild that. And trying to make it through the rest of this game. And next time, I'm just not gonna wear makeup because I don't know why I did that. I look like I'm melting now. So. Hi, I'm Sydney, and you can follow me on Twitter at Sydneyak, and I also have a YouTube channel, which is also Sydneyak, and I also have Instagram, which is Sydneyak. All that universal branding.
Impressive stuff.
I know.
Joseph, your thoughts, my friend?
Well, I'm heartbroken, but very excited to get into the rest of the story. I think this is going to be a tremendous amount of fun. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what Tamron's in store for and how he's going to be interacting with all of the other players, and especially you, Will, our fantastic and heartbreaking DM.
Thank you, sir.
What wonderful. Follow me on Instagram at Joseph_Swift and on Twitter at JosephIsNotFast.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So like I say, guys, we're going to be back next week for our first episode. Official, where the party will meet back up and we begin our storyline proper. Hopefully you guys have been paying attention, because some of the things that have been going on in the origin stories will be occurring and influencing our full campaign. So yeah, like I say, guys, if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star review and grab some tissues next time. Be prepared for the first episode of Turncloaks. And until next time, my friends, try not to throw too many nat ones, because we want to be here laughing when you do. Good night, everybody.